I'm Kimmy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter, from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. So today we're going to use a couple of pre-cut hacks to make a quick and easy jelly roll quilt. So don't forget, all the information that we're going to talk about today can be found written down in our blog post. So if you just check the description below, you'll see a link to that so you can find all the measurements and all the steps and everything that we're doing there in the blog. Also, when you're ready for your next project, don't forget to check out our shop where we have a whole bunch of fun modern quilting patterns ready for you to sew. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to talk about the supplies. This is about probably the easiest supply list we will ever have. We are going to need two things. We're going to need a jelly roll pack that has your main fabric. This can be any jelly roll pack you want. So any prints, any colors, anything you want. And this needs to have at least 24 strips in it. Then we're going to need a jelly roll pack of our background fabric. This one we definitely recommend choosing like a solid or a tone on tone. There's a lot of packs you can get that are all going to be all white, all gray, all black. So we definitely kind of recommend sticking to one of those because you just want it to all be the same color for the background or very, very similar colors for the background. And this pack does need to have the 40 in it. And then that's going to give enough so that you can bind it as well. So we'll have all the fabric we need for the quilt top and for the binding out of those two jelly roll packs. So if you're not sure what a jelly roll pack is, they might be called different things, but we're just looking for strips that are 2.5 inches wide, and they're going to be cut the whole length of the fabric, so selvage to selvage. And you usually can get like an entire line in one pack, so it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to get some of all the fabrics. If you really like one particular fabric collection, you can get all of them and put them all into one quilt. So like I said, we're looking for the 2.5-inch wide strips for this project. What you're going to do first is we're going to separate it out a little bit. Our quilt is going to use 4 of your main print per block set. So you're going to take your fabric, and I have a solid here of some different melons and pinks, and I've separated them out into 6 different sets with 4 strips in each one. It does not really matter how these go. It is entirely up to you. This is jelly roll quilt is really super easy. It's not going to be anything that takes specific placement. So just separate them out so that you have 4. They can be a mixture of different scales of your prints. You can, mix in darker ones or the lighter ones. You can group them if you want to. However you like those sorted out. So you're going to need 6 sets of 4 strips each. Then to pair with that, we're going to need 5 of your background strips. Then go ahead and set the rest of them aside. Like I said, those will be used. You can use those for binding later on. So you'll need 5 background and 4 main print for each one of our block sets. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our sets. So that's going to be 4 of your print and 5 of your background. And we're going to lay them out. What we're going to be doing is just sewing these strips together the whole length of the strip, and then we will cut them up a little bit later. So I'm just going to lay it out however I want. Leave them folded in half, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to start with a background, and then one of my prints, another background, another print. I've opted, because I'm doing solids that are gradiated tones, I've decided to just go dark to light on all of my blocks. So whatever set that they ended up in, I'm starting out and I'm putting the darkest one at the top and the lightest print from that set at the bottom. And then you're going to finish it off with 1 more of your background. So you're just going to alternate all the way down. And we're going to start at the top and just sew each of these seams together till we have this one nice big wide strip. Now I have my 4 printed strips and my 5 background strips all sewn together. And you're just going to go ahead and repeat that for all of the strips. And make sure, remember, you're using 1/4 inch seam on that, just like with any other quilt block. And one little helpful tip, when I do this, I do just line up one side with fabrics, they are not always the same length, even if they're the same brand. These all came from the same jelly roll strip. You can see how they're all different lengths. So I like to just pick one side to line up so that I know that I've got a nice surface that I'm working with here. Now we are ready to go ahead and trim these down. And we're going to be making 18.5-inch square blocks. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to actually just fold it in half. I don't have a cutting mat that's quite big enough to cut this on. So I'm going to show you a little trick that will make it so that if you don't have a great big cutting mat either, it will be okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half and just make sure that it's lined up along the top and along the bottom. Then I'm going to line it up. I need to get rid of all of these selvages. So I'm just going to line it up. You should have plenty here, so don't go crazy with the amount you put on the other side here, but make sure that all of your selvages are off. You'll have enough on this strip. And then I'm going to lay this down and cut off all those ends, and that's going to give me 2 nice edges. And I just made sure it was lined up along the top on one of the lines on my cutting mat. Now, what I need to do is I need to cut 18.5 inches this way, but I only have 17 inches here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off the edge a little bit and line my ruler up along the edge of my fabric. Then I'm going to use the 1.5-inch line and just put that right on this very edge of my cutting mat. I need to go out a little bit here. So I've got the 1.5-inch lined up there and still lined up along the edge of my block here. Double check to make sure that it's also straight across the top. Then, without moving it, I'm going to flip it around. Make sure it's laying flat. And then I can just cut along this edge over here to cut that down. And then that's going to give me 2 18.5-inch blocks. And we're going to repeat that with all 6 sets of strips until you have 12 blocks, 18.5 inches square. We are now ready to lay this quilt out. As you can see, this is a very quick and easy quilt project that can be done in a weekend. So we're going to start with one, and this is going to be kind of hard to see the full layout here on the table, but we're going to lay one going horizontally, then we're going to flip the next one going vertically, and then the last one is going to come in and it's going to be horizontal as well. Because I opted to go dark to light on all my blocks, I'm just going to keep those going all the same direction. So on all of my horizontal blocks, the dark's going to start at the top, the light's going to be at the bottom. On all of my vertical blocks, I'm going to put the dark on the left, the light on the right. So then the next row, we're going to come in, and it's going to get laid out with vertical, horizontal, vertical, and then repeat and just alternate that down so you have the 4 rows. So after you have those 4 rows laid out, we're just going to go ahead and sew them together. Super easy. And just a couple of tips on the ironing here. Make sure that you're ironing all these strips before you cut and before you sew them together. With the printed strips, I've ironed them both to the background strip. This works really well because I have a gray. If you have a white background, you might want to put them all towards the print. It might show less on the print than it would on the white. If you have a darker background, definitely go ahead and just iron those all flat towards the background. And then on the side seams, I did iron them to the background strip. Because there's no seams here that we have to deal with, that we have to mess with, it makes for a really nice flat block. So just a couple tips there on the ironing. And then after you have all of the rows sewn together, go ahead and just sew the strips together as well. And with that, the quilt top is done. And you have a really nice throw-sized quilt that was done easily. You could easily complete this entire project in a day, throw it on some batting and backing, and get it quilted up in a weekend. So it's a fun, quick, easy project that's good for beginners or for more experienced quilters alike. It's also very versatile. You could easily split these in half and make 2 baby-sized quilts with 6 blocks each, or you can always add more blocks and make it even bigger. So one last tip before we go, when you're all done with your quilt top, because there's no borders or anything on the edge to kind of hold all those seams in, we recommend just giving it a quick little stitch about 1/8 of an inch in around the edge of the quilt, and that's going to hold all of these seams together until you get it finished. So don't forget, all of the details that we talked about, all of the steps, can be found in a blog post, which we've linked below the video in the description. Also, head to our website and check out our shop to see all of our modern quilt patterns when you're ready for your next project. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see all the things we're working on as well. And we'll see you next week.